Hey, it's the nerdy sports fan. So now that the draft is over, the attention of the offseason diverts to the veteran cuts. Now, a lot of this stuff isn't going to happen until some semblance of a preseason like we're used to actually starts. Getting these guys in training camp, seeing if these rookies can and free agents that you just signed can mesh and do what you think they're going to be able to do. But there's a handful of teams that really need to think about this now because they're really close to the cap, if not way over it. So the current Steelers roster, as constructed, is almost $15 million over the cap. Now, that's not their top guys that are going to count against the salary cap once the season starts. They have a little bit of room when it comes to that. But they also have one Juju Smith-Schuster who's making pennies on the dollar compared to receivers of his level of production. And he can't be too happy about that. So you're going to have to pay that man. And once you get to that point, you got to find a way to make that money. Because you can't just print your own and say it's good. You can only spend so much in this league thanks to the collective bargaining agreement. So it's got to come from somewhere. All right? Now, the Steelers made some moves more recently as win now moves. And, well, they couldn't win now because Ben Roethlisberger got hurt. And, man, did they miss him last season. This defense carried this team because without Roethlisberger's brain, mostly, I mean, you can find somebody with arm strength, but without his ability to manage that offense, it was entirely inept. Entirely inept. So there's been quite an overhaul in the works, but it's got to continue. So I'm looking at two players on this roster that really should be thinking that they might be on the outs or they definitely need to restructure their deal. Tyson Alualua. He's only making $3 million a year, which isn't a huge amount. But he's most certainly not the guy in that linebacking core. Obviously, you drafted the middle linebacker that's the dude. So, Alualua might be just a little too much for what he's bringing to the team. That combined with him being the wrong side of 30. He's 32 years old. And he's going to be a free agent coming up in 2021. I think those are all factors that point to him having a big old bullseye on his back right now. Now, you also have Casey Hayward to think about. He's a coming free agent. He's just now 30. But I think that he does things for this team that you can't easily and immediately replace. So I think he's relatively safe. What I really think is an interesting contract and an interesting player to think about in this respect is Joe Hayden. Now, since coming from the Browns, Joe Hayden's been, fantastic. But he's definitely not the guy in the secondary. Okay, that happened via trade last year when he got Minkah Fitzpatrick. I understand he plays safety, not corner, but Minkah is what makes this defensive secondary work, not Joe Hayden. So now he, in my mind, looks a little bit overpriced. We're talking about a guy who's 31 years old. He's also a free agent coming up in 2021, and he's making $11 million a year. That is a gigantic bullseye on his back. He's making a lot of money for not being the tone setter in that defensive secondary. Minkah's not making that. So they're going to need to do some things in order to extend key players on this team. Obviously, Minkah Fitzpatrick and Juju Smith-Schuster and Casey Hayward. I just don't... Hayward, Hampton. Either way. I'm sorry, getting names confused here. The Steelers have a lot to think about. They have a very expensive roster for not making the playoffs last year. I understand you have to consider Ben Roethlisberger's injury, but you also have to consider how effective do you think the team as currently constructed is going to be, considering there's a new bully in the division in the Baltimore Ravens. You have to make this roster contentious going forward. It can't just be about the here and now, because Roethlisberger's reign is about to end. So financially speaking, they've got to get a lot of things in order for the here and now, but they have to keep an eye on the future, get that quarterback of the future, so they can start spending money on these other positions again. Because really, Ben Roethlisberger's contract is what's hamstringing the team financially. You're not going to get rid of him, all right? You don't have a better option. You proved that last year. So you better draft him soon. Or else we're going to be having the same conversation next year with, okay, what good veteran is going to get the axe? So Joe Hayden and Tyson Alualua, again, are pretty obvious people to look at for me for what's going on with their contracts. But tell me what you guys think. All right? Hit me up in the comments. I've got a few of these videos for other teams that are also in financial dire straits with their cap situation. So check those out. And like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, as always. Thanks for watching, guys.